Hello, everybody. Dial up is right. Old school. Tracking my time. Back in the days when we had to track our time. I'm only allowed to be on the internet for 5 hours for the entire month. Can you imagine that? We're on 5 hours a day, if not, well, probably more than that for all of us, right? That's so funny. Welcome everybody to another stream. So as you can see, this is what we're covering today. I got on the aliens kick. So last week we finished up the alien dropship, and some of you asked, hey, are you going to do the APC or not? And we're off and running. Well, so are you not getting sound? Everybody not getting sound? Because my sound's jumping. Hello, can you hear me? Let me put this in text because sound is fine. Okay. Yeah. Going good. Okay. All right. All right. So who said no sound? You want to check? All right, well, they'll probably say that you guys are all saying the sound is good. Okay. Thank you. All right. Just making sure. Okay. So excellent. So I'm going to cover how I built this inside of ZBrush, because like all my streams, I'm doing everything 100% inside of ZBrush. So this was done 100% inside of ZBrush, of course. Okay, and I'll rotate it around a little bit. Let's see how the stream is going. We've got good bandwidth going, right? And then for giggles here, let's throw a little render on this just to see what the renders are going to look like. Just throwing a render, i.e. shadows and some AO. AO. Okay, thanks, Andre. You need some greebles, huh? There wasn't, surprisingly, there's not a lot on this. There are not a lot of greebles on this, surprisingly. So, all right. So let's break this down. Let's get going at this, how exactly we're going to do this. Like any of my projects, especially ones that I'm dealing with something that already exists, right? And that's the difficult part here. This item or this object is well known, okay? So like anything you guys do, references is going to be key. You got to have some good references. And usually when I'm making something that already exists, especially something that's relatively, I would say, iconic. We all know what, most people are going to know what this is when they see it, right? They're going to know what movie it's from and where it's coming from, right? So I think it's so important to have, hold on, this little, I might have to get rid of this little thing that shows you guys where I'm at, because it keeps on taking my computer now. It's over, hold on. I don't know. I'm gonna kill that thing that tells you guys where it is. It's causing problems today. Okay, so you've never seen Aliens? Stop it right now. That's your homework for the weekend. You gotta go see it if you're of the right age, though. You gotta be the right age, okay? Because it's not a movie for everybody. You gotta be old enough to see an R-rated movie, okay? So this is important, right? And then just like someone just said, silhouette is key. So I think this is why this is so important, right? Having this little thing in the top corner so you can really see what you're doing. I use this so often. I find my eye just going up there constantly looking at what can I do, right? So this is key to having references. So I would say the first thing you want to have, and in fact here, let's make my webcam a little bit bigger right now. Extreme, oh, it's blurry. Okay, so this was key for me, buying one of these, right? Sorry for the blurry camera, it was fine. And then of course, as I start the stream, it's not. Doesn't fail me. Okay, so we don't need me really big the whole stream. There we go. So having an item, so me physically, I like to physically have something to look at, because I don't care how many images you get, whatever you get imagery, it's always best to have the physical item. So if you are doing something like I just did, that is a well-known item, chances are someone's already made it, right? And they're selling it as a collectible or whatever, and that's exactly what this is, right? So this is super helpful because then I can hold it in my hand. I can change the angle that I'm looking down the line. That's very, very, very helpful. Okay, but to begin this one, I am going to use the blueprints, okay? And I'm pulling them out of a book that there's actually an Alien Blueprints book, which for those in the US, it's really cheap. In fact, you can get it used for $30. And then this has all the Aliens movies, including Prometheus and all the more recent movies, because this is a more recent book. And ironically, there you go, right? So this is going to be very helpful for me to just start establishing. Oh, there's the Prometheus, right? So this is a great book. If you're a big art book nut like me, and also you know, just like having these for references, I think it's good to have these for references for sure. So there's the book. I'll put it in there. It's obviously, I'm in the US, so that's the US Amazon page. We'll close that now. And then I physically have it, right? So really good book, honestly. Even for when you guys are doing your own work, it's good to see how other, you know, artists have done stuff. In this case, movies, right? You got nice big pages. Okay, so very handy. So to start this, I just took imagery out of the book. I just took those blueprints out of the book and imported them into ZBrush, right? So now I've got these images right in here inside of ZBrush, and now I want to use these. So this is how I started off doing this. Okay, I'm gonna keep these up here so we know what we're working towards. And in this case, obviously, I have a finished one, so I can keep looking at this and referencing this. So this is also using Spotlight, which I'm a big fan of Spotlight. All right, so let's start with a cube. Always my favorite thing to start with, especially for hard surface, is that ever popular cube. All right, now I don't use this cube really at all. The only time I use this cube is if I'm going to turn it into a Dynamesh. Otherwise, I don't use this cube. I prefer using the cube that's either in the gizmo or down here in an initialized state that I can actually change the items. So I'm just going to, in the gizmo, swap it out. It's an easy boom, hit the gear, swap it out. Okay, now this one's pretty tiny, so I'm going to make it bigger, right? And then I'm going to say, hitting the W key, bring it back like this, and then now I have this. Okay, so I'm going to use this as a benefit here in a second. Okay. Yeah, you can 100% use. So you're asking, I'm looking at a vehicle tires and wondering if you could use a knife. You could use a knife brush, but I'm going to show you guys how I did the tires in this one too. Okay. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to bring in some images. So I'm going to go to the draw palette. Okay, I'm going to come out of perspective mode. Okay, especially for I want to, get this going where I want to have some just setting up pieces and things like that. So I'm going to go into this area right in here, which is our floor grid area. So we've got our camera area. We have storing cameras. I'm going to go in here in our floor grid. And I've got some images. So I've got an up-down image. So I'm going to click on map 1. And I'm going to grab the image that shows the top, which is this one. That'll plop it into place like this. So when I'm looking from above, this is what I see. Okay, so that one there. And let's see, does that one have... No, that one does not have the front, but it's got the back. So I'm going to come now to the front and back, map 1. And okay, there's my front view. Okay, so there's my front. And then I need a left-right as well. And that's the first map. So now we have these maps floating around. Okay, I personally prefer this system myself. There are multiple ways to bring in some reference images. I prefer these because I like it moving with my model. So it's always there wherever I'm going. And I personally prefer to look through my model at the imagery. Okay. Yeah, you can, the images actually are in the Learn Day. If you go up in the chat, there's a link I put of the book. The images I'm actually, ironically, are right there in Amazon now. So you can grab them there. I can share them later, but I got no real quick way to give it to you really fast. Okay. So, hey, Varner Studios, how you doing? It's been a while. You can size for printing inside of ZBrush right now. I do it all the time. All my toy work and everything that I do, I've got 3 3D printers right here in my house, right? I'm doing everything through ZBrush, sizing it up. So I can show that but once me get going, and then I'll show that in a different way. Okay. So, okay, I got these images. They're just floating around. I need to edit these images. Okay. They're not cutting it the way that I want this. Obviously, this is in the wrong direction and everything. So let's just start with this one, I guess. Okay. So we'll start with this side view. I'm going to just temporarily, so I don't have to keep pulling this draw palette up. I'm just going to dock it over here. All right. So I got left, right. So I can rotate this. Okay. So that takes care of that already. I'm just going to go with this side. It's pretty much the same. I'm just trying to get the main profile here. Okay. So I'm going to hit my adjust button over here, and then that'll pull up my image. And now I can just grab the red circles and say, okay, I only need that part to that part. And I'm actually going to use the benefit of this image, having the tires right on this line right here, is actually going to be a benefit for me. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to say okay. And then now I only see that. So this is already, for me, becoming a lot easier and productive. Let's go ahead and do the front image now. Okay, so let's go front back. I'm going to rotate that first. Then we're going to adjust that. And this is the front up here. So we're going to go from there. And again, this book is awesome that they did this blue bottom strip thing. I'm using it as advantage because that's where the wheels are touching. So it's going to help me actually inside of ZBrush. It's actually very useful. We're lucking out with the book. Yes. Okay, there we go. So I got that. And then you can see one problem we have is one image is bigger than another. It's not a big problem. Okay, now I'm going to go to top view. Right, so let's say up, down. Okay, so that's this view. Okay, I'm looking at this now. This isn't facing the right way. Okay, so I can just flip it if I want to. And then I can also rotate it. So I'm going to say, okay, I want that direction. Of course, makes the most sense. And let's adjust that one now. Let's see. We need this to come over here. Oh, and this is nice too. Look, I love that they did this. This is the kind of stuff why I like these art books. I would, like, what am I going to search for online for this kind of a thing? Like, I love this where they're showing the mechanism of how the tires are actually turning in there. I think this is, I love this stuff. To me, stuff is gold. Gold. Right? And now we're going to just adjust. I need those. Let's go. We only need this much. Okay. I want to make sure those ladders stay in and down to here. Okay, that's good there, Garrett. Just enough that I got most of what I want and hit okay. So now what we have here are 3 images. And in all honesty, some of them, all 3 of them, they're maybe different sizes. Right now, you can see they're different sizes. So I'm going to use this cube as a benefit. Okay, so I'm going to pick one of these images to start off with to actually match the size. All right, so let's just go with the side profile. This is another reason why I'm going with a cube that's only 6 faces right now. Okay, it would not be the easiest vehicle to parallel park. It's so true, so very true. Okay, so I'm gonna come in here and say, all right, I'm gonna resize this down, okay, a little bit. So we'll just go right about here. Okay, this sits about there. let's unmask this area and push. So the furthest point is right there. Okay, and then the furthest point to the back is right there. Okay, and then the highest point for in here, right, looking at this, is right there. Okay, so I'm using that line, that line, that line as a nice starting point. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is why. When I scroll over this, you can see that there are shooting lines, right, that are projecting out to all three images. So I'm going to use that as a way to line things up for me, number one, okay? And number two, I'm going to use the actual floor grid itself, right? So if I'm saying this is now going to become my main image that I'm going to use, so now I want to resize this. And look at this. This one's almost dead on ready to go, right? So let's see. It's good there. Like, I would say this is, like, look at that. Almost like perfect for me. I lucked out here. Yeah, and then right there. So that those two images are already lined up. Perfect. Okay, now, what you might want to do here as well, when you're going to do this part, okay, I might come in here to geometry. And for this sake, I'm going to turn off the smoothing. And I'm just going to divide a couple times because I just want more vertex points in here, right? That way, see, I can get more points to look at these protruding lines, this blue and green and red line, okay, to line up my images. Okay, so obviously the front image is not even close. Okay, so I'm going to go then to the front and back, and we need to size this way down to something more like that. There we go. And then now what I have here, if I double check, right, I can use these lines to really start gauging, do I have things in the right spot? So I'm double checking really quick here, right, with this. In essence, I'm doing a bounding box is what I'm doing of the main body. And I can say I'm looking at, okay, this looks good there. This looks good there. And that looks pretty good there for me. Okay, this image is a little bit off. Okay, so let's actually size this up a little bit more. So I'm going to go 0.39. I guess we'll go bigger, 0.42. So I like to do this kind of in steps if I'm really trying. You know, the one thing I'd be careful is, obviously I didn't take this picture perfectly. Okay, and number two, be careful because this particular model dips in the front, right? Has a little bit line, right? If you look, it's got a little movement there. So I'm going to be a little cautious of how I'm lining up this image as well. Just taking on that thought is going to be important for me. Let's go a little bit bigger. Maybe not that much. That's a little too much. 0.412. I guess 4.1 seemed to be like, yeah, that's good enough. Okay, so there you go. Now I don't need any of these points. I want to get back to just a six-sided cube. So now what I've done is I've just set up images for me that are ready to go. Okay, and Michelle, okay, this is what your question was asking about sizing. You can do all this already inside of ZBrush. Okay, all this is possible already. So everything I do for printing, 3D printing, I didn't use any other application. I just use ZBrush, throw it out of ZBrush. So there's two, and you know what? I think this is important because I've actually, this week alone, have answered this for a couple people. So I think let's really quick do a very quick one. Okay, a very quick tangent. Okay, since my goal is probably to 3D print this in the end anyways and put it on my Christmas tree. Right, so I'm gonna go into my plugins. All right. And in this, I'm going to tell ZBrush, I want to look at the size of this. So there's two ways to do this in essence, okay? But I want to clarify these two ways. So you're going to use either one of the two plugins. There's either Scale Master, okay, or there's a 3D Print Hub. Now the difference between this and what you guys all need to understand with this is 3D Print Hub is only changing the size of your model on export. That's it. That's all it's for. It was made specifically for 3D printing. That, hey, I want to export my model and have it set to a particular size, right? So for an example, this, I might, let's say this is our gig and we're remaking this for somebody that's contracting you out, and like, hey, this is going to be, you know, something like this, right? So I need this to be a certain amount of inches across. So what I'm going to do is just hit over here, update size ratio, and then there are measurements on this, but ZBrush doesn't know, is it in millimeters or is it in inches? It doesn't, and most programs don't. We do now have the 3MF export now. So if you guys have any programs that will import 3MF, you can use ZBrush to do that now as well once you've set your scale. So I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to say we're going in inches. So this is going to be really tiny, right? Because what we're doing is the math. So this right now is 2.8 by 1.28 by 578, right? What is this? But is it millimeters or is it inches? I'm going to say this is inches. Okay, and what that's done is set the size of this, and all subtools that I'm going to start putting on top of this, they all relate to this now. So what I mean by that is that as I start adding items to here, they all have an aspect ratio with each other from here on out upon the export. And then all I need to do now is export this. Now, if I want to change the size and they come to me and say, hey, okay, this is in the Z right now, this is about 6 inches. I'm going to say it's supposed to be 10, right? So I can hit here and hit the 10 and hit enter. And then all 3 are going to be updated. But nothing physically. This is key, everybody. This is one of these. This is a Lisa needs braces moment. Okay? Lisa needs braces moment. There's nothing happening to the model inside of ZBrush's workspace right now. Nothing. Okay? And then I usually, when I export, I like to export separate files because I usually have, you know, like 5, 10 subtools that you're going to maybe print out or you want to get out to another application. And then I export, and you guys decide if you want STL, Vermal, or OBJ. All 3 of those support also polypane information exporting. All 3 of them also importing. Okay, except for a Vermal, we don't import a Vermal. Okay, and there's no way to export a step file. Armin, we're a polygonal model application, so we don't do step files. That would be more of for a CAD base file. We don't do. You're gonna have to convert that in another application. Okay, so this would now export 10 inches by 2.2 by 3.77 inches. And then again, any subtool that I would have on this would all be lined up the correct size. That's it. I only need to do this for one of them. That's it. Now, the other thing now is Scale Master. This plugin's goal was made for more for, hey, I need the model inside a ZBrush space to be a certain size. I.e., I need this to physically be inside a ZBrush 10 inches by that 3.77 by that 2, whatever it was. Okay, and this might be important if you are in a world where you're working in miniatures or toys or anything like that. You gotta worry about, you know, wall thicknesses. You gotta worry about how big, if I'm gonna put a cylinder in something, hey, it's gotta be a minimum 2 millimeters wide, right? Or when you break that down in inches, 0.01 inches, right? So that's what this plugin's more for. All right, and it's for creating bounding boxes too really easily, or any other measuring tool. So this set scene is the same thing, but you guys have to click it here too. Just because you clicked it in the one plugin, they're not links, they're plugins. They don't even know about each other. They have no idea about each other, just like my wife has no idea what the heck I'm talking about right now when I'm talking to you guys about ZBrush. It just glosses over. My mom probably still thinks I work at Pixar for all I know. I don't know how many years. She's like, hey, you're working at Pixar, huh? No, I'm not. But I'm at the point now, just go with it. Just go with it. Okay, so, no, there is no way to put exact measurements in the floor grid, but there is a way you could figure out the floor grid if you're always going to work in a certain, like if, for example, Funko, right? As a company, their characters are all the same size relatively, right? So you could find the correct settings for the floor grid inside of ZBrush that would have, it would be possible, but I'd have to sit down and figure it out. Okay, so back to this. Now I'm saying, okay, this item is this big. All right, so it is the 5.78, and so everything updates. All right, and what I'm gonna do now is tell it, no, actually, I need this thing to be 10 inches in the Z. Okay, and then I just hit resize subtool. And if this all button is on, it does it to all of them. We'll pull something up real quick. And then see, boom, now it's big. Obviously now my images are not going to line up anymore. Right? So there you go. This model, technically inside of the ZBrush physical space, if you just now export, even just normal export through here, you would get the 10 inches. Okay? And it's updated physically inside the workspace now. Okay? So this is the difference, okay, between it. Right? That's the big thing to understand between what is the difference between Scale Master and what's the difference between the 3D Print Hub. And then the last thing to think about for Scale Master, what I like to use is if we grab a tool with multiple subtools, i.e. this guy, and I want to now they come to you and say, hey, we need him to be, right now it's 8 inches, right? Well, we need to make him actually smaller. We're cutting down on the cost. We need to be 6 inches. All right. So this is what I like to do. The first thing is set my scene scale. Okay, so this guy is 7.9 inches tall, right? And then what I prefer to do a lot of times, and it's also important, is I like to make a bounding box. So I'm just going to click new bounding box subtool. And what ZBrush does for us all is if we turn on transparency and we turn on ghost, it makes a perfect box that goes to the exact bottom of his foot, exact top of his head, and to the tips of his fingers. And then vice versa from this, right to his chest, to his backpack. So this is good, especially if you guys have a project where, okay, this has got to fit within, 10 inches by 5 inches by 4 inches. You've got this bounding box now to do this. And then I can use this for anything, right? And then the other thing that's going to happen is once you guys turn on your transpose, you're actually going to get true accurate measurements up here now. So you can see this transpose has been pulled to 6.4803 inches. So when you use the Scale Master, this is also being updated. So what I mean by that is if I want to know the halfway point of this, or if I click this point to that point, you'll see that this is looking at what I want this to be right now, which is around 8 inches. Okay, so now this is a measurement tool as well for me. So this is the benefit of using Scale Master. Okay, so there you go. This is the best way to do it. And then not only that, you can also, what is really nice, you can do a 1 unit helper. You just click on this and ZBrush already knows you're in inches, right? So this cube is 1 inch by 1 inch by 1 inch. So this is really what this plugin's more for. Okay, all right. Good, Michelle. Yes, hit me up. Let me know. I need the head to be the right size. You can use, yes. To answer your question about the Maya, if you need the head to be the right size inside of ZBrush, then yes, you could do this with Scale Master. This is what I would do it with, is get the head to the size that you want. So when you throw it over into, as you asked about Maya, the size will be right. But don't forget, like in Maya, your default scale, right? ZBrush's default scale is millimeters, but that's not in my Maya's default scale is centimeters, right? Because the program Maya itself also doesn't know, are you in the world of inches, centimeters, and like most programs don't, right? The file extensions have built-in numbers, but they don't actually store, is it in inches, millimeters, centimeters, so forth and so on. Okay, but a 3M does, a 3MF does, which ZBrush does export. All right, so let's get back to this. Okay, enough of this one. Enough of the tangents. Let's go. Let's get going on this. Okay, so now that I have this is all set. I now want to start placing important points of interest on this. So I'm going to stay low polygon. We're going to switch to Z Modeler. Okay, and I'm going to say I need to insert an edge right there. Okay, and if you want to, we can turn off the fill. So you're just looking at the line. And if you want to too, so if the images are too much for you, okay, I can knock down the image opacity here. So I can see more of my actual, so you can see more of the model now, right? And then so you can change your colors. This is just my poly group. So I want an edge loop there. That's going to be important. Okay. And then from here, this is tough. This is tough to see. This is why this was nice to have. Where does that point of interest start happening, right? So I'm looking at this, right? And then this is where you probably have other images. I can see where this point of interest is, of where the angle starts to go, and it's right there. Okay, so why I'm bringing this up is because now I'm going to do this. I'm going to unmask just these 2 points here, and I'm going to start pulling down this to give me that. Then I'm going to mask this, and we're going to start pulling down that. Okay, that gives me that profile. Now let me come over here, and let's get this profile from the front where I'd want that. And I would be also, I always say, don't marry yourself to the references sometimes. Don't worry about being so exact. Because again, I didn't take these pictures 100% accurately either. So listen, if it's somewhat close, okay, if we showed this to anybody, most people that know the movie Aliens, I hope they would all go, oh, that's the APC from Aliens, which is Armored Personnel Carriers, what APC stands for, right? So, okay, that's good. I like that. That's looking good. All right, so from this angle, I say I'm pretty much done there. I'm not worried about this right here so much because there's reasons for it down the road that we're going to look at. Okay, let's come to the front. Okay, and let's take a look at that and see, okay, that's looking pretty good. Okay, let's look at the top and look at this, right? So we can say that's looking pretty good from there. But now we've got other things going on here. Okay, we've got this happening as well. Okay, so we got to start matching up, and this is important. When I did this line, was I really at the right line, right? You see that right there? If I go from the top, I'm not actually at the right spot, right? So I need to switch to slide, complete edge loop. This needs to be sitting more right there, right? This is a different line. So this is why I'm always looking at this as far as like a triple check, double check kind of a thing too. Making sure I'm looking at the right stuff. And then this is where I can go and use these projected lines. Right? So you can see this is showing, look, my images are not actually on par right now. Right? They're not exact. Okay? So this is why I'm saying be careful of when you start doing stuff like this, right? If I'm going to go now with the side one, then what I want to do is make sure the top one is being accurately portrayed. And I could say right now, the problem is the top actually is not right. Okay, because I'm lining this thing up with this in the back. And this side view, right, is a little different too than this. Okay, so I can see I'm not lined up right, just right here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to now adjust this real quick. And this is kind of why I like to do this in this part, because I want to make sure that I'm getting everything right. And I'm going to use this kind of as a gauge, and then I'm going to move up, not horizontal, but vertical, more like that. A little bit more. Size that down. There we go. Right? So this is, again, a reason why I also say be careful how you're taking your reference images too, and what you're doing for your reference images. Okay? Okay, so that looks good. That looks good. Okay, but now this needs to have something coming in, and I'd say now it's too wide. Right? It's a little too wide, so I'm going to come a little bit more narrow. I'm going to go right about there. Okay? And again, I'm not looking at this. This is like a separate month. I'm looking at the main body right now. Okay? And then I need this point and this point to come in and just give myself an angle in here a little bit. Something like that, right? So that we've got that front end starting to happen that we're used to seeing. Okay? And start looking at this in this way, right? And then now I can say, all right, let me fiddle a little bit with that front image. Since I'm using this, let me make sure, let me get that a little bit more accurate. So I'm going to scale it down a little bit more. And there we go. Something a little bit more like that. Okay, so now we have this. We've got a good start to this. Okay, so I've got a pretty good size going here, which is relevant. So now I want to start looking at what does this look like now when I divide. So I'm going to turn on dynamic and start looking at this, right? Without the floor grid, this doesn't make any sense, right? It's smoothing out. Okay, so I'm going to go, let's go back to the dynamic that I've just turned on, right? So I just turn it on with the hotkey, which is Shift D to turn it off, D to turn it on. So I'm going to put this at 4. This is just my preferred go-to. And then I'm going to crease all so that we get back this shape. But now what I'm going to do, now that every edge is creased right now, I'm going to play with this. And again, as always, I'm going to drop down my crease level. So right above my head, I'm going to drop this crease level, right? So this is a number that says how long to hold the creasing. So I'm going to keep it at 3 actually. So it just keeps kind of that hard surface look that I want to have here. Okay. Now what I want to start doing is looking for other relationships. Okay. So obviously the other relationships that are big to me would be the wheel wells are big. And obviously this top gun are big relationships. These are the big items. I want to look at the large items before I start worrying about all these details and stuff. So I look at this as kind of in steps. Okay. Colin, I couldn't say. As obviously it's been 22 years and we haven't charged for an upgrade. But I can never say. Okay. Oh, from Argentina. Welcome. All right. So let's start looking at this. Okay. And this is where I'm probably going to want to bring in another image, right? If I had an image from the bottom, which I don't think I brought in an image that has a bottom. I think it's only, yeah, it's only the top. I don't have the bottom image in here. Okay. So I'm going to now say, let's start organizing myself. Okay. So this is going to be main body. And I'm gonna immediately put this in a folder. Okay, I want to start getting smart with this because I know I'm going to be using things down the pipeline here. So I want to right out the gate start making this happen correct for me. So I'm just going to duplicate this, right? And then I'm going to call this wheel well. Right, and then I'm going to say, let's replace this now. Let's make sure there's no symmetry. I'm going to center that. I'm going to reset the gizmo by holding the Alt key, reset. And then I'm going to say cube. Right, so now that I have a cube, which looks like a sphere, because right now dynamic subdiv is on, because I duplicated the existing one, right? So I'm going to now throw on this one. Let's go ahead and throw some creasing on this so it's more cube-like. Right, and I'm going to now look for my red line. This is my x-axis. Let's see how well you guys can see that. Let's go from above. How are you guys able to see what I'm talking about here? This line right there. Now you can see it, right? That red line. That's the positive x of the world. So I'm going to move this over to the positive part of the world. So I can see from this view, at least the wheels should sit right around the wheel well. Obviously, it's got to be deep enough for the tires, right? So I'm at least going to go right there. Seems like it. So using the front view, even though I don't have the bottom view, I can still use this front view, right? Then I'm going to say, okay, I don't need this to be out any further than that, okay? And then now let's start positioning this to match something else here, okay? So I'm just going to turn off dynamic. So you start doing something like this. Then once again, I need that. Then I'm going to need this to be right about in there. Okay, so now we need this profile. So this is just going to be inserting an edge right through here. Right, so all I want to do is insert an edge loop right through here. Right there, that's good, see? And then now this point needs to move this direction. And this point needs to move in that direction, right? So there we go. We got that wheel well. That one started. Okay, I've got some good depth in there. Let's go ahead and copy this. Okay, and then look, the back is a little bit different, right? Because it's high, it's bigger at the back, right? Then this is why, again, when you're doing stuff, right, and especially hard surface, look for the big chunks. It's just like when you guys are sculpting organically. You don't sit there and sculpt fingernails if you don't have the fingers in the correct size yet. Like they're not the right length. There's not 5, there's only, right? You can't do one until another's done. So this is what's important about hard surface too. You can't do it until it's there, right? These main pieces. Okay, so this one we got to look at this and go, okay. It looks like to me this has come straight off. So I'm going to take advantage of this. I'm going to use the clipping brush real quick. So clip curve. I'm going to straighten out this back portion. Boom. Right? How many of you have ever thought about using the clip curve for low polygon stuff? I love it. I do it all the time. Whoops. Okay. And then I'm going to push this so it goes past the point of interest. And then now I need to get this angle correct. So it needs to be right about there. And then this now needs some movement. And again, I'm just unmasking and masking things to get where I need to be with this. Okay. And then now I definitely want to turn this on. And I'm going to crease all. And then looking at this, this is kind of, it's got too much going on this. And so let me turn off the floor grid. There's too much roundness happening for me right now, a little bit. I want these corners here to be a little bit more sharp. They're rounding a little too much for me, okay? So I'm gonna add another edge loop in here. So I'm gonna add an edge loop that's closer to here, and then let's add an edge loop from here to here, okay? So I'm gonna add an edge loop here, and then add one on the other side there. So it just makes those corners a little bit more tight. And then I want the same thing here. So you guys can see it right here, right? See the faceting that's happening in here? It's just because it's so low polygon. Okay, and it's better to have a little bit more topology anyways from when we're gonna get into the next phases here. So I'm gonna add some there. Let's put one on the end, but in fact, let's make it be straight and straight, something like that. There we go, right? And then now I'm gonna immediately just go right into this. I'm gonna say this is a subtractive and put on live booleans, right? And then there's our wheel wells, right? It's very important for me to start getting this sizes where I need them to be, right? Again, looking at the large items, okay? Well, listen, if I'm gonna choose between a knife and trim brush, I would say the knife brush is now my number one. There are advantages to using the trim brushes over the knife brush though. Okay, so this is good to go. I have this, all right? So I like what we got here. So now I'm just going to go ahead and let's mirror and weld this over. This is why I took the time to see, was I on the correct side of the space? I.e., remember when I pulled up this and said, look at that red line, right? This red line right here. That's why I took the time to make sure, because I know mirror and welding is going to mirror and weld from the positive side of space over to the other side. Actually, now it doesn't matter. We did an update a couple versions ago. Okay, so this is set. There's my wheel wells. So let's go ahead and let's put some wheels in this, right? That's another big item. So let's throw some wheels. Let's throw some wheels in this. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna insert a cylinder. Okay, and let's go ahead and let's rename this. I'm gonna call this tire. And there's a reason for this. Okay, and I'm gonna go, all right, we've got a tire here now. You see all the spans of topology that are through here. So if we turn off the floor and we solo, by the way, if you want to get rid of all these edge loops in here, there's an easy way in geometry. If you go to edge loop, there's delete loops, and see all those with one click, all those edge loops will be deleted. So be conscious of that. I know a lot of you are Z modeling with Z Modeler. So delete loops sometimes can come in very handy, right? So don't forget about those other features. There's so much now, okay? Op Finder, I would need to see the model. There are a lot of techniques you could use, probably, but I would need to see what your problem's coming in. The best would be to send it in to me to support.pixologic.com so we can go back and forth with your model and help you out. Okay, so now that we have that, okay, I'm gonna say, all right, let's put our images back on again really quick. And now I want to get a tire 90 degrees here, and I'm gonna go to the back. So I'm gonna go here, right? And I'm gonna go and use this cylinder to line things up right here. However, I know down my pipeline, okay, when I want to go render this guy out, I know that I need to render out a tire, okay, and a tire material, and the rims need to be in a completely different material. So let's not forget about that, okay? So with that said, I'm going to do something else here now. I got this kind of in the position here. I'm going to hold the Alt key and tap at the bottom vertex point here of this cylinder. So now this gizmo's sitting here in the world. I'm going to now actually replace this cylinder with this cylinder. Okay, and you see how it's facing a different direction right now? For those that don't know, when you are replacing things from in here with this gizmo options, the blue arrow is your most important arrow. That's, in essence, forward Z. So right now, my Z, right, is going along the wrong axis right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the Alt key and then the Shift key so I can snap the blue arrow to look this direction. Right, so you see now the blue arrow is looking at me. And now when I click and say new cylinder, right, I get a new cylinder, right? So you can see wherever this lands, okay, lands where the gizmo is, right? So if I was to even move this up to say right about there, and then click this, you can see where that goes, right? And now what I want to do is the tire is only going to be so big. Like I'm going to say right around there. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, and I'm going to say now, let's go ahead and let's do some creasing. Complete edge, I'm going to crease that. I'm going to crease that because I want to look at this smooth. I want to look at this nice and smooth down. All right, and then I'm going to say my go-tos for me is a 4 here, and then because I'm a big crease guy, I'm gonna have that at crease of a 2, right? So right now it's kind of pretty soft, but I'm not worried about it because I'm gonna start adding some more edge loops in here. Okay, there is no snap to function no. Okay, so now I'm gonna say this. Okay, first of all, the tire is way too wide. Right, so we need this to be a lot smaller, okay? So we also need to make sure this is creased and this is creased as well. So we got something more like this, okay? And then now what I'm gonna do is this right out here, these faces, so in essence, these faces right here is all I care about right now, okay? I can come in here and then I can go Q mesh, polyloop it, and then just quickly change the size down. Right? And now what I want to try and start matching is the outer portion of this tire. So you can go this route, or we can just do this, right? Go with masking, polyloop as well. Boom. Okay, inverse that mask. And then now I'll just size that down to the size of the tire. So I want the tire about that big, sitting about right there in space. Okay, bring everything back. Okay, that tire looking from the side here doesn't stick out any further. Right, then right there. And so now I need this side as well to sit more right there. So there's our beginning of our tire, right? So now that I have that tire, okay, I'm gonna go, let's make the rest of them. So this is where my handy dandy, my good friend that I use, look, extreme close up. Do I have any zits? Right. Right, so I'm gonna say let's turn on some array mesh. I definitely know I want to lock my position, I want to lock my size, and I want to use the transpose option. That's just me. I really like the transpose option. Okay, And then there you go. You can snap the gizmo to a particular vertex point. And by the way, everyone, you can actually snap the gizmo itself as well. So you see how I'm freely moving it? If you guys hold the shift keys, you can actually snap in the world, right? So this is actually snapping to world coordinates right now, right? I'm going 0.01 at a point right now at a time, right? So if I know, hey, I want this to sit in opposite side of the world, like -2 world point order, right? I can do that, and that's -2 from where I just was. So there is that, by the way. Okay, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the Y key. Why, you ask? Because I want to move to the transpose. Okay, so that I have this. Because all I want to do now is in move mode, I'm just going to move this tire out here to the front. Okay, so this is where I want that tire to live. And then now that I have these two tires, I need it on the other side, right? So we'll just turn floor off for now. So I'm going to say append a new one, and then I'm just going to mirror over the X, and we got the tire on the other side. Okay, so here's the beginning of our tires. Okay, let's go ahead now and let's make a rim. Okay, so I'm actually going to start making a new folder here too, and I'll just call this one wheels. Okay, and what I'm going to do, because I just took the time to make that array mesh, I'm going to duplicate. Okay, and then I'm going to rename this rims. Okay, and then this, okay, is sitting in the same exact space in the world, right, as this. So now let's go ahead, and I'm going to replace this one with this cylinder once again. This time close up the surface. And then now we're going to size this down, and I don't want any topology that way. And I'm going to go ahead and crease this. So I'm going to crease the edging like that. And let's go ahead and now just size this down. And this is going to be my rim that's going to sit inside the tire. Right? So obviously this needs to come all the way to here. I'm going to have it sit right about there in that part of the world. And then this side needs to come all the way in and sit right there. Like that. There you go. Okay. Now let's throw a little bit of some detailing in here so we can just start making some of this really stand out for me. So I have more of a visual cues for myself personally. So let's do some work on the tire. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and say, let's have symmetry on, right? And I know when symmetry's on. I know symmetry's on right now because there is a double circle on the outside, right? So here, we turn this off so you guys might be able to see it better. So symmetry's on, symmetry's off, symmetry's on, symmetry's off, symmetry's on. Okay, and then now I'm going to say, all right, let's also make sure we are working in local symmetry, right? So whatever I do on one edge here is happening on the inside of the tire as well. And I'm going to first establish a middle point interest. So I'm going to use my insert multiple edge loops, make a point of interest there. Okay, and then that's good. I'm going to go back to a single here and say, all right, I want an edge loop to live right about there. I'm going to want that to be creased. Here, we'll solo out, so we're just looking at this. Okay, so you guys see what I'm working on like that, okay? And then now this, I want to put a little bit of a lip. I'm just going to put a slight lip in this tire. Something like that, just a little one. Okay, and then now I don't like how this looks with the creased edges. So I'm going to soften that. I'm going to round that out a little bit. And I'm going to round out the top portion a little bit. Give me something like that. And let's even see, yeah, maybe something like that. I just want a soft, subtle little ridge there. Okay, that's going to connect to the point that is our metal rim here in a second, right? So that's a great start to my tire. Okay, so let's now do the same thing in here. I need a little bit more detailing going on in here. All right, so I'm going to throw in another edge loop in here. So I'm going to say insert. So again, I want to make sure I have symmetry on. So you can see, I can see that other white line on the other side. So I know symmetry is now on for me. And we're going to do something like this, just to tighten up that a little bit better. right? And then there we go. I'm looking for something a little bit more like that. Okay, so now that we have that, all right, let's look at now, I want to start adding some tread to it because I think this is important, because if we start looking at this, right, this right now is a little, I'd say the tires are a little big, right? I'd say they're a little too big, right? So it might even be, I might want to move them in space a little bit more if you prefer to do that, okay? Or you want to size them down. We have now 2 subtools. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on my gizmo. And I'm going to turn on handy dandy pizza boxes, i.e. pizza party. Right? I'm going to turn on that icon right there. And I'm going to hold down Control Shift and then make a green box where I want things and then inverse it if I don't. So what I'm doing here is I'm deciding, right, what stays with this selection and what doesn't. So when I move this, the only thing I want moving are the tires. I don't want anything else moving. And then I can even size them down a little bit more, because I think they're just a little too big for me, for what I had them for. And I'd say more like that. And then there you go, a nice little quick way to change those up. All right, I'm going to turn off my floor grid. Okay, that's in a good spot. Let's have some fun now with some tire treads. Okay, I'm going to take the tire and I'm going to duplicate that. Okay, and I'm going to call this now treads. Right, looking at the poly frame of this, I'm going to take advantage of something I have here. And I'm going to tell ZBrush, let's rotate like this. I want this portion right here. I'm going to take advantage of this. Right, so now that I have this, I only want that. That's the only part I want of this right now. Okay. Then I'm going to say, let's delete the hidden. Okay. We'll turn off dynamic temporarily. I don't want this down here. So let's start deleting. I don't want this. I don't want the little ridge either. I just want this portion. So we're going to Control W that. All right. And I'm going to start having a little bit more fun with the tread here. Okay. But before we do, let's start seeing what else we can do with this. I'm going to throw some creasing on the outside here, and then I'm going to turn on dynamic. Okay, so this is what will happen. There's no thickness here. So let's just briefly throw some thickness on this. Something like that. Okay. And then I can do post subdiv, right? Or non-post subdiv. So something maybe that's more intriguing for me. Something like this. Okay, and then now I'm kind of getting an idea here of what this tread could look like on this tire. All right, and now what I'm going to do is tell ZBrush, all right, let's go to our array mesh. Array mesh. Then I'm going to say, let's go to the bottom one. So I have 2 stage points here. Stage number 2 is giving me the opposite side. Okay. Stage 1 is giving me the first 2 tires on the one side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to stage 1 and I'm going to say insert new. So now there's 3 stages in this array mesh. Okay. And I'm going to say we want now to use these 3 stages. Okay. So there is a pivot point here that I want to move to the center here. Right. And again, you got pivot point numbers here. So I can do this, right? So it was 0.4866. Right, so these 2 points of our interest have been moved. And then I'm going to say, let's switch to rotate. And I'm going to say, let's repeat. I don't know how many right now. Let's just say 18. And then I can start rotating these around. Right, and what I'm doing is rotating this. Right, so you can go either direction, right? So obviously, I would want to go just exactly 360 degrees. Right, and now you can see what 18 of them look like. Right, so this is start helping me out right out the gate. So I can say, well, maybe 17 or 16, maybe put a little bit more gap. Maybe I want something a little bit more like that. Okay. So now I got this. So I'm like, all right, well, let's really start having some fun with these treads. Right now, we just got flat planes. Okay. Right. We're just looking at right now with some thickness. Okay, and I'm going to say no smoothness, so we're just got this. This is more what I want right now. I want something more like that. And I'm going to say, okay, the thickness is good. I like the thickness. It's working around all the tires just the way that I want them to work. See, you can keep adjusting things however you want, right? And then I'm going to say, all right, that looks pretty good. That's good to go. Let's go ahead and apply this. So now I have, if we look at this, the real topology, right? So I want to now crease. I'm going to say I'm going to crease these edges here and here. And then now when I look at this smooth, I don't want any thickness, but I do want some smoothing. And I want to see what is that looking like now. All right, so now that I got this, let's have a little bit more information here to play with. So I'm going to say, let's look at doing an edge loop here, right? And then I'm going to take this face here, Q mesh, and I'm going to just pull on this face down here. And then I want to take all of these vertex points, these ones right here, and we are going to center it between the two and then just push them in so they do that. Right? So it comes up to that ridge, and then you decide what you want, right? How far do you want those to push in, right? That's all I'm doing here, right? So if we turn off solo mode, right? I'm just looking at the left and right side and I'm saying I want those, right? So now, if you want to keep this, because when you pull with the scale, you're kind of distorting the mesh a little bit. So instead of using the scale, I'm going to use the move, because then that won't distort this piece as much. So I'm going to do something more like there. There, that works for me. Okay, so now we've got this going for us. Let's have a little bit more fun with this, maybe. So let's just look at the treads again. And I'm going to come up here. I don't need symmetry right now. Multiple edge loops. I'm going to do a single edge with no polygroup change. Right? So I'm going to do something like that. Then I'm going to do it again. Do it again. Okay. And then I'm going to do here, 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 here. And let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this. Okay, and I definitely don't need all this stuff creased. I don't need that creased. Let's loosen it up a little bit here, eh? Okay. So now we have something like this, that all this is set up good, right? Good to go. Okay. Now we could do a little bit more, have some maybe a little bit more fun with this, I guess, with the treads if we wanted to. All right. So we can start thinking about this in the sense, how about we bridge from 2 points and go maybe here to here, and then maybe here to here, right? So then I need to do that on the opposite side as well. Okay, so I need to not only have this happening here and here, I need to come down here and do it as well. So I'm gonna turn off my array mesh for now, so that we can just look at this, right? This is why I made these edge loops, to kind of do something a little, maybe a little bit different here. So we need to go from here to here, and then here to here, right? And then that way, when I Q mesh down, right, you can make even some kind of little bit of a different looking, I don't know, tread that you want. Maybe even get rid of this and get rid of this, and now we have a tread that looks like that. And then I'm going to say, let's go ahead and I'm going to crease these edges here. So let's just go and do a complete edge loop. Here, here, whoop, here. Okay, there, that's good. And then I want to go ahead and crease that edge, that edge, that edge, that edge, that edge. And now look at this. Divide it, and now we've got a tread that's doing this. Right, and then now we do this, okay, and then turn our array back on. We're getting it into all of them. So just something different, you know. I don't know. It's our world. We do there. I'm gonna also this. I'm gonna round this. I want this to be a little bit more rounded. I want a little something more like that. Right? So now I've got some treads going here, and it's something different, right? It's not the same old all the time. Okay, and then the beauty of this, because it's an array mesh, I can constantly be updating and changing how this is going to look, right? I also need to crease that bottom there, right? And then I'd say that bottom there, so we get something more like that. And then I'm gonna now change this and this and this to a new polygroup. And I forgot to crease that edge there. Okay, and then now what I can do is QMesh polygroup all and make them even come together. Now maybe my tread's more like that. Right, and this is what I like about array mesh. I can see what's happening with the tread. Okay, just something different, different way to go. Okay, there, that's good. Let's move on now. Let's go back to our floor. Really, again, it's about getting these major marks. Let's now throw the main part of our gun on here, right? That main upper gun on that. So I'm just gonna insert this time something. And I'm gonna call this, let's rename this. Main gun body. I, of course, am going to replace this with a cube that is only 6 sides. Something like that, right? And now I'm going to say, let's put that in a folder. There we go. Then I'm going to come back here and we're going to now get this to be correct. So again, it's about getting the major parts. Don't get lost. Don't get in the weeds. Don't get lost. Look for that main silhouette of the shape here. That's all I'm trying to do right now, is get that, okay? So that's pretty much a good size there. Okay, this needs to be here a little bit more. So let's move that edge to there. So start getting this size, because this stuff's all going to help me line up everything else that's going to happen on this, right? So I want to make sure that I'm just first getting all this good. That's good. And then top view, it's good enough, right? We'll go, how about we'll do that as a relationship. Okay, so now let's start doing a little something else to this, right? We need it to have an edge loop right here. So Z modeler, and let's do insert a single edge loop. So I'm going to need one. All right, I'm going to need one right here, and I need one right there. Okay, that way I can bring this. Oops. Bring these in. Okay, and before I even do that, I'm going to make an edge loop there and an edge loop there. Okay, and then that way, I'm going to bring these in now to start making the front of that. Right, and then I need this one here. In here, I should just probably work in symmetry mode. It'd be a lot easier. We'll center that, and then let's bring these way in. And something more like that. Oh, not that much. We'll come in actually, and let's go ahead and so now we have that. Let's double check that. Okay, that is looking all right. That's looking good there. Okay, so I want to start getting this to start all coming together for me in different ways, right? So now you've got multiple angles happening throughout this one piece, right? So it's going to be important and crucial for me to make sure I'm looking at this the right way, right? So there's even going to be an edge loop through the middle here, and then through the middle here as well, as an example, right? So there's edge loops that got to fault down, right? So that's actually these edge loops up here. So I'm gonna move these down here. Let's turn symmetry back on. Let's move this down to here. And then this one's gotta come up to there. Let's go from this side view right to there, right? And then now we got that starting to happen there. There, that's looking good. And then there's got to be a little bit of movement in here as well, this way. Something like that. And now I need to just finish up the back portion, right? So this, okay, has faces here coming off, right? So if we look at, here, let's look at the original again, the one that I made, right? So here's the one that I made, right? So if you look, there's an edge flow going through here, and then I got an edge flow going through here as well, right? So I need to now capture that in this one here, right? So let's just bring these in to this point there. Okay. And then, well, looking at this, you can see actually what I would want to do is put those edges back in actually. Let's go put these in here. So way that this, oops, would be from the side view, this thing, right? And then these sit up here. This will sit there. That's good there. Let's move these more there. Let's move this more there. Okay, so now I got that. That looks good. That looks good there. And then now we need the angles to start matching a little bit more. So we got that, we got that. Oops. Now I need this one. Start coming in there. And then it's going to come down from the top here. And then come up here. Oops. A little bit there. Right, and then this edge right here, I'm going to slide just the edge back here. Okay, so that's going to give me a little bit more of that angle. And then I'm going to say, let's take, where I get masking of that edge, and you can even move them up. And I'm even going to center them. So let's make it line to here and bring it up. Something like that. Right, so you just start getting those main shapes that you want. Okay, you want to have happening in here. Okay, so again, as an example here, I'll show you. This is the one that I made, right? So here's what I did low polygon wise. Right, so if we really, here we eliminate some edge loops here. Really the main portion of this is, whoops, that. Right, so this is just from a box. Same thing, right? It's relatively simple. Okay, it's not too complicated, right? So, you know, you got to look at this as simple as you can, right? So all the way back to here, I would even say you can simplify this even more, all the way down to just get, oops, just get even the middle portion, get that portion. right there, right? Get this right. Right, something like this. And then you can even come off a polygon like that too, right? And then you can just change the size of this to start matching. Hands in the way. Matching out these lines in here. Right, this is just a really different way to go about it like that too. Okay, and then I didn't do it on the other side, right? I wasn't in symmetry mode. So it would be better for me now to work in symmetry mode. So that I can do this and then bring them both down in. There you go. Right? And then this face right here can become this portion right here. Oops. Right there. And then it sits right about in there. Right? So you already got most of that shape right out the gate in here. Right? So again, this is where this is how I did it. Right? Same thing. See, box, shrunk this down and got this. And then I wanted another face out, right? Out here. Right? So there's going to have to be another edge through here. Okay, so this is important to start blocking out these. So since I already have the one done, I'm just going to add my done low polygon one. I don't like the one I'm doing. All right. Okay, so this is where I have this. All right, so this is important then for me to start now evaluating where everything's starting to happen now as a relationship. Okay, start getting all this stuff set to the right size. Okay, and now what I want to start moving on to are some other things that are important. Okay, so if we look again, having this model handy dandy for me. Okay, this comes in and it also has an angle in the front here as well. So I want to establish that angle in here. Right, there needs to be that angle established as well. So now we've got that. And let's start putting in some other major important parts to this model. Okay, I'm going to make my edges be a little bit more pronounced. So I'm just going to mirror and weld over that way. Okay, so I have a center point of interest in here. Okay, and then I want to say, let's go ahead and start throwing these pieces in. Right, let's just start getting those pieces together. Okay, so I want to dig into that. So once again, I'm going to use something like, I'm just going to duplicate this one. I'm going to call this front cut pieces. Okay, there we go. And then now, let's move this up to here. And I'm going to go right about there. And you guessed it, I'm going to just replace, do some replacing. I'm going to do some creasing so that I have that. Okay, so it's creased. But I'm just going to line this up with that really quick. Make sure that's lined up really quick. And this is not important. I just want it to be out further than the other one, right? Because I'm going to use this as a Boolean cut. Right, so if we turn this off, and then now I turn this into subtractive, we're cutting through the surface, right? And this should not cut all the way, so let me establish the high point of cut right there. Right, so that is now giving me that. And then I accidentally moved this top portion. Not really that big of a deal. because I just want that right now. I want that. And then now let's do the other side to this. Okay, and this one's very different, okay? This one's got a little bit of angles happening in here. And if you noticed, here, let's go back to the original again, right? There is a gap there, but you notice there is paneling here, but not on here, on this side, right? So that's going to create a little bit of difference in here for us, the way we're going to handle that. Okay, so I want to make another mesh that can do this for me. Okay, so let's start establishing that and get that more where I need it to be. All right, so looking at that, let's come back to this. I'm going to use this reference still. Okay, so I'm going to come across like this. Okay, I need to go right about there. Okay, and I need this to actually sit lower, because it does sit lower, sits more in that world. All right, and then it's going to come to about there. And if you notice, it's got an angle as well to there. All right, so there, now that's cutting through where we want that to cut through. Now we need to do this portion. Okay, so what I would probably do first is do this. Get this right first. Let's make it be a little bit more here. Oh, it's not masking off the right parts. Let's go more like that. Okay, and then we're establishing this, right? So this is now going to need an insert edge, right? Where I need that to be, and I'm going to solo this out just to look at where this needs to sit in the space, right about there. Okay, this is now going to allow me to pull down these edges to come down to here, and then come into here. And let's just go right to the point and move it straight to something like that. Okay, and I don't want to save that. Let's unsolo so you can see what we got right now going. Okay, and then it doesn't sit, this point down here doesn't sit that low, right? So you can also just use, if you wanted to, there's a slide, a single point. So you guys could go this route and slide this up if you want to as well. Like, there's ways to do that. Okay, but the thing you got to understand here is there is multiple planes happening here. Okay, so the one plane that I'm not establishing right now, okay, is this plane right in here. Right, there's a point where this is also happening through here, right? So it's not just that other movement. So you need to start also making sure that we get that angle as well, right? That's going to be really important for me to make sure I establish that angle as well. You know, just make them all nice and even, right? Because you need that angle in there, right? And you notice now I can see what needs to be adjusted, right? So in this case, looking at this angle goes all the way to the front, right? This face and this face actually come way out here more, so that it can keep going all the way to the front. And then that way now really more establish that a little bit more, something more like that, right? Because it's got to come all the way up to here, right? Because this has got a different thing happening in there. Okay, and then now I want to start, okay, now that I got that angle, I want to start establishing everything else that's happening in this, right? So in this case, I need another edge loop, I'm going to put another edge loop in here. Right, so I'm going to put an edge loop, a little one, nice one in there maybe. Okay, and then now these angles need to change all through here. Right, so this needs to have a change in an angle. So I'm going to only show this, masking it, we'll center that. Then I'll use a deformer instead and only move this point to kind of make the angle. Let's see what that's looking like. Okay, I'm going to look at my references. Needs to be a little bit more like that. Okay, so there's that point. Is now where I need it to be. Okay, and then this point right out here. Right, so this one little lone point right here. That one right there. Okay, I'm gonna now, let's hide the mask. And I say, okay, it goes down a little bit. And it also comes in a little bit. Give it a little bit more like that. All right. And then now the points that I have right here come way over. Come all the way over. Okay, so I'm going to say we need just this one. Start coming way over here. Actually, we're going to need, let me solo this out. I'm going to turn off my floor. I want this one, and I want that one. And they're going to start coming over to make an angle. Let's go all the way to there. Right, and do something like that. Now, I can also just delete this, right? And so now we have this going on, right? And then I can just say, we just need something to go from here to here, right? In essence, here to here, right? I need an angle there. So we can do, again, we can bridge this across, and you can even create something like that. Right? So now you got a supporting edge going that direction. Right? So I'm going to move these up a little bit more. And then I'm going to go ahead and crease all. Start establishing that better. And then now I'm going to have that angle, this angle in here, start coming across this way. In fact, I think I'm going to, looking at this, I'm just going to actually weld this all together. Stitch, and do endpoint, and stitch those together. Start establishing that point of interest in there. There's some real problems getting that angle that I wanted. Right, start establishing these pieces and getting what I want to start happening here. Okay. Honestly, I can go about this many different ways, right, to get to this point if I wanted to. And again, looking back, again, we'll look at this. This is the piece, in essence, that I made, right, in here to establish that line of interest. Right? So you can go that route as well. Right? So you can see a little bit of what I did in here. So I think in this way. I went more like this. Whoops. I did this first. I established this cut right across here first. Right? Get that height where I wanted it to be. Something more like that. Right? And then I used this to do, this is where, looking at this, right, coming way over like this. Can even just do this. Oops, I've adjusted. There we go. Sorry. I was masking things out that I didn't want masked. Not going so well for me today. Start cutting into that. Right, and then this is going to establish the cut down to like right there. Right, so then that's that piece, and then now this, you can also go transpose, single polygon, and then I'm going to extrude that out a little bit, and then this piece, this edge now goes to right about there. Stuff like this. And then this is just, this is too far out, way too far out. So I'm going to align along that edge and move it all the way to there. So I can have that and that. And then now I need this to sit lower. More like that. So about that low. And then it's got to come in a little bit too. Just a touch. And I think I'm going to pull these edges out a little bit more. More like that. There you go. Starting to transition from one piece into another. Okay, and then I want to now put the back part on. Okay, so I'm going to throw a little back part and start putting a little bit of the back elements, and I'll show you guys a couple things that I did for the back end. So let's go to the subtools. Let's just insert. I'm going to insert whatever. It doesn't matter what I insert. And let's call this back. Right? And we'll cut that up in there. Move this back here. I'm replacing it again with a cube. This is a completely separate piece. Right? So something like, I'm going to go about that thick. And then it comes out wider. And sit right about there. Right, and then it's going to take on an angle. Right, so then there's angles back here that are being done, right? So the main body needs to have some different type of angle happening through this. Okay, so I'm going to start adding these. I'm going to put an edge loop there. Okay, and it looks like this does this to this, so let's put an edge loop. That's the top of that. So now these points Alright, I need another edge loop. One more edge loop right there. And let's go ahead and just crease them all so I can get a better understanding of this profile. So there, something like that. Okay, and then now this piece needs to take on those angles. So it doesn't go out further than the wheel well. So there, it needs to be a lot skinnier, something like that. Then I need an edge loop for this, right? This needs an edge loop in here. So I'm gonna go there. I'm going to have this be on an angle like that. And let's get rid of this. And then now let's just extrude down like that. And you can see this has a different type of angle to it. So it's something more like that. All right, and then I'm gonna move now this to there. And now let me mask that off and move that to there. And then bring that in just a little bit more. Okay, there's that portion now. So there's that. I'm going to bring it out just a little bit more, just to have that angle. And then up here, we need another edge loop here. So I'm going to insert another edge loop there. Let's go ahead and mirror and weld this over. So we'll turn on some symmetry. And then these get pushed in. Give an angle like that. We'll crease all, turn on our dynamics. And then there, start establishing that piece. And I'd say be careful that my top view is not quite accurate. Okay, so there is that. That's established now. Something like this. Okay, and then let me start establishing this angle, right? So I might as well go back to, I already got front cut pieces. So I might as well just do the same thing back here. Swap this out for a cube. We'll size this up a little bit more. Let's go a lot bigger. Maybe not that big. And let's crease this as well. And I'm going to actually recenter it to the home, because I did not center my gizmo. So this is going to go to about there. And then it goes to about, we'll say that's good enough. Then we only need about that much. And then up to there. Let's zoom in a little bit more. So right there. And then now I just need to move this point down so it starts cutting in to the surface like that. Okay, so there's that one. And we need another one up here. And looking for my reference, there's even a little bit of a other cut happening in there too. So let's take this one, let's duplicate this, right? And it goes to there. I got clips, so I'm going to clip this, and then it only goes about that high, I would say, right about in there. Then it comes across like so. But for the sake of live booleans, I'm gonna make this a little bit taller, just so also I can tell which one is what that's happening here. And let's make this a different Holly group. We got something like that happening. Okay, and now this needs, from above, needs another set of edges. So I'm going to insert an edge. It looks like there's one there. Okay, and then I'm going to insert an edge. There's another one living right there. Right? So I want that in there because this is making that cut, and then there is a very slight another, this face right here, also just a little bit. It's subtle, but it's there, right? Just creating that little bit of a ridge there for this weapon, right? And I'm trying to establish these really big, interesting parts so that I can start putting in some detailing stuff. Right, so then just sharpening things up a little bit. Okay, there we go. We got that, we got that, we got that. All right, right? Now, let's start looking at some other things, especially the back end. It's a little more complicated. Okay, so if we, again, look at this back end portion here, let's turn off our floor, right? We've got these vents happening. We got this kind of thing happening. We got a ladder going on, right? So, and then you got all these other little bits that you got to do. We got to put angles like this in to start establishing this correctly, right? And getting all that to start working now as well, right? So these are the things that I want to start now looking at. So let's start looking at my time. Okay, we don't have a lot of time, so I want to have a little bit more fun with, say, something like this in the back here. Like I think something like this. It's actually not too complicated if when you break it down and start looking at this. Okay, so I want to show you guys a little bit of that, of what we're doing here. All right, so you guys have been commenting back and forth. I mean, I haven't looked in a while. What is it that I missed? How do you classify each panel? I'm not sure, Nesta, what you mean by that. How do I classify each panel? What do you mean by classify each panel? If you can elaborate. We haven't established this. You'll be getting the theme. If you're involved in the sculpt off, you will be getting that theme soon. You should say, look up here to me. Right? Okay, so this is something based upon existing meshes and things are on, right? So right now, right, looking at where we're at with this, right? This is the piece that I have going on right now, right? And that goes up to right about what we just made, this part right in here, okay? So I want to start creating things in here, right, to have that coming through here. So let's first establish maybe the rails so I can see how wide those rails will be and how long they'll need to be. So let's quickly make some really fast rails for this. Okay, so this is part of the let's see, the gun. Here it is. Okay, so I'm gonna call this low main Oh, it's so hard to tighten, like Cintiq's in the way. Okay, I'm gonna just duplicate this. All right, and then I'm gonna just call this rails. Okay, and come in here, center it with no symmetry on. Okay, and then I'm gonna say, let's grab a cylinder. And once again, I am going to put it this direction. Okay, let me establish this width. Okay, so how wide? The rail should be about that wide. Okay, obviously size this way down. Okay, and now looking at this, the rails would live right about in here. So this is how easy it's going to be for me to do some railings. So all I did is use our handy dandy extender to do this. So I'm not going to turn on any of the symmetry. So I'm going to turn them all off by turning the colored cones here in the corner, which obviously red is X, green is Y, blue is Z. Okay? That was what? So Ernesto, keep throwing. If you can expand upon what you were asking. So then I want this to go this direction, and then I want this to go this direction, right? Because I want the rail to do that. Okay. And then technically now, right? Looking at this, I only need, in essence, this and this. I don't need that. I only need right now this portion. So let's just delete that. Okay, and then now the rail should live about this, say this distance, let's say from the back. Okay, that looks good there. And then it goes all the way, and you see why I established these things? I know where this stops now. This has got to stop before that. This is why that little ridge probably exists in the original design. Right? And then now we've got this established. Okay? So this can now become the source of my rails. Okay? And so all I care about, here we'll solo this out, is this face. We'll change the color. Those green faces. That's it. That's all I care about, are those faces right there. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of every other face. Okay, and delete hidden. Okay, so now we have, this is the one. And I don't want it to be this wide. And I want it to sit right there. Okay, and then the other one's going to sit right there. Okay, and then now, all I need to do is tell ZBrush, let's Q mesh all polygons. Okay, so we'll solo this out again. So we're only looking at this, pull them all outward. I'm going to change my polygroups by tap Alt, Alt, Alt. And then this, I want to put a little bit more in there. So I'm going to Q mesh polygroup all this time. And let's just make the rails, they need to be a little bit more thicker like that. And let's go ahead and now and just crease there, and I don't want this creased. Like I don't need these are creased. Don't know why I'm doing that accent, whatever that accent is. I apologize for the brutality of my accent. And then, whoops, there are my rails. Let's throw another edge down here because I want that to be a little bit tighter at the bottom, a little bit more tighter at the top. Perfect. Okay. And then I want these faces. And in fact, you know what? Since I have two here, forget about edge loop. You guys also think about slicing is a great way, right? Because there's two rails here and they're not perfectly symmetrical right now, right? My head's getting really extreme close up. Let's pull that back. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is, let's go further away, is I'm just going to use slicing, right, to establish the edge where I want it, and then it's happening on both for me. However, I don't want the polygroup to change. So I'm going to mask off everything, and I'm going to slice there and slice there. And then that way I'm getting, see, both rails are getting the exact same treatment. So I do this quite a bit, honestly, for me. And then I'm going to say, let's change this polygroup, that polygroup, and let's change that polygroup and that polygroup. Now, this has got all the same green. I'm going to do an inset, polygroup all. I'm going to do something like this. Change those polygroups on the fly. Something like that. Then QMesh, polygroup all. Push this in. Just start giving that a little bit more. Definitely need to crease by the old PG'er. And then I want edges here. I want these creased. Okay. So I want that creased, that creased, that creased, that creased down there. And then up here. Yeah. There we go. Good to go. Boom. There's my rails for this, right? So now I've established the rails for that. Now let me establish, again, let's start establishing some of these back pieces that have a little bit more things going on. Especially, let's do this one. This one's got a lot more going on. Okay. Oh, Aliens is your favorite movie? Oh man, it's up there for me. It's one of the best. The timeline, if you download the patch 2021.7.1, your right and left arrow keys will work. Because we added the ability to your question. We added the ability, if you're going to do an insert mesh brush now, if you don't have the timeline showing, okay, you can actually use, I can't get to them right here, the arrow keys to cycle through, right? So see, it's selecting without me actually going. Right, so here, I'll select the middle one, see? But now if you have your timeline on now, it'll go back to using the timeline, if your timeline's on. So but you got to download the patch. That was what we just released this week. Okay, so now that I have established this, I need, this angle is very like a specific angle that's happening in this piece, right? So I'm going to reuse the main body, okay? So I'm just going to duplicate this. I'm going to rename this back vent main box, okay? And then I'm going to say, all right, that needs, looking at, there needs to be an edge loop here, okay? And I want that creased completely. And then there needs to be an edge loop here. And then that needs a complete creased there, okay? And then I'll slide this to be a little bit, maybe a little bit more, something like that, right? And then this vent, looking at this or any images, goes almost near to the bottom practically and all the way to the top. Okay, so I'm just going to put a little bit of a gap in there, all right? So I'm going to insert, I want it to go about there to there, okay? And then I'm going to crease that and that. And now the only two faces I care about, are these two right here. Everything else can now go away, right? And then now I have these, right? And then I'm going to delete hidden, okay? And then let's start having some fun with this now, okay? I'm going to tell ZBrush, let's put a little bit, in fact, yeah, I'm going to have this go a little bit higher. I don't live more in that world. Okay, so once again, I want to QMesh this all polygons. Let's make that have a little bit of some thickness in there. Change that polygrouping on the fly, something like this. Okay, and then I'm going to add a little bit of some elements to this. So let's go ahead and QMesh by a poly loop. Let's put a little bit of a ridge in here. There we go. And then I'm going to do an inset in, with the faces, inset, polyloop, and I'm gonna do something like that. Then I'm gonna go ahead and say, let's Q mesh this now, polyloop that up, something like that, right? And to keep things consistent, I'm going to crease all, right? And you know what? Let's throw a little bevel. Why not? Throw a little bevel on this, and then tap and do the same thing. Crease all, and then now we've got something that looks like this starting to happen, right? Just create some kind of little bit of other little ridge there. Also, it's nice for the light to be able to catch that too. And if I want, you know, I'm going to put a little bit more of a ridge on the outside portion. Just give it a little bit more information there. Okay, great. So now I want to do the next portion of this, which is creating all those vent lines of interest and what I'm looking at, okay? So, Jern, no, I don't do any coding, no. Paul, I couldn't say. Unfortunately, I can't really discuss future development. What are you talking about for VDM brushes? Oil change. Oh, okay, you found out yourself. All right, so this is where I'm going to start to say, okay, we need some vent in here, okay, to start happening. So I'm going to duplicate this once again. And now let's just look at this. And the only faces I care about, once again, are these green ones. That's it. I don't care about any other ones. Okay, so I'm going to delete hidden. And then I'm going to do an inset here. I'm just going to say polygroup all. Let's do a little bit of an inset like this. Just create a little bit of an inset. And then now, delete hidden. Because I want this to be in a little bit. I want to have another little bit of a little ridge in there for me. Okay, so now I'm going to start looking at this design. Right, so I need to establish. Let's go ahead. Let's turn on local symmetry, mirror and weld. Okay, so there's a center point. Let's turn on symmetry. Okay, and here we're going to look at this. I'm going to say I need inserted points here. So we got about that. Okay, so we'll get rid of that middle point. We don't need that anymore. Looking at the top of this, I'm going to need points that go from here to up here, right? And then I'm going to say I need to bridge 2 points from here to here in essence. Okay, so then what's going to happen is, looking at this design, okay, this is all going to become one polygroup, okay, and then these are going to become a different polygroup. So in essence, what's going to happen here, I'm going to get rid of the green here as we move along, okay? Now that I've established that, I'm going to go ahead and I need to put a large insert here and here. Make a nice little bit bigger gap. Make them to be relatively right about there, I'll say. That's the nice spot for that. And then I'm going to say, all right, we need an edge loop here. And then another little one there. And then the same thing up here. Something like that. Okay, and then I need another edge loop. So we need to go from here to here. And then we need to put, actually, I'm going to put a little bit bigger of a gap in here. Let's put a gap in there. I'm going to go from there to there instead. And then this will be one polygroup now. Okay, that's good. And then I need another edge loop here. So I can go from here to here, and then this will be a different polygroup so that I can see that. And then I'm going to establish this as another different polygroup. Okay. And I now need to repeat it the opposite direction now. So I need, I'm going to say right about there. Go from there to there. Right? That'll establish this polygroup, but we need this to stay green. By the looks of it, yep, that's what they did. And then I'm going to go from here to here, right? And then that, yeah, we're going to adjust some stuff here. Let's slide this down. I'm going to go right along this edge. Let's go a little bit more, something more like, yeah, that looks better. Make that, it's a different polygroup. And then we're going to make this be a different polygroup. Okay, so right now you guys are like, this looks weird and crazy, right? But if we do this now, okay, this is a design that I have right now going on, right? So I'm going to just double check. Okay, we got that and that. Great. We got that, that. Okay, so again, what I am making right now, okay, is this back vent portion, right? So you guys can see this is how I did this, that I'm showing you this right now. This is how I did it, okay? Then I went, all right, now that I have this, we need to use these polygroups. So I'm going to delete the hidden, get rid of what I don't need. And then I'm going to come in here and say, let's do an inset by polygroups. This is why I took the time to do different polygrouping. So now I'm just going to inset a little bit. Now, what you might want to do also for this, okay, is when you're insetting, there is equidistant, and then there's also this slider right in here, right? Sometimes this will help you get rid of the triangles when you're insetting, not necessarily all. I'm going to go about maybe that. And then now I just tap, 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 tap. Okay. So then all the insets have the exact same polygroups, right? So I can now just get rid of just all those polygroups, and then this is what I'm left with. Okay. So again, let me go backwards with this so you guys completely have an understanding of what I'm going. Now, if you guys also just want to use standard, okay, this won't put any triangles, but it'll change the topology a little bit. Okay, so you can go maybe something like that. Tap, 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 tap. This is all I want. I want to get rid of now the actual inset pieces because I just want to keep only this. Then I delete it, right? And then now I say QMesh, right? QMesh, all polygons. Let's pull that out. Change the polygrouping, right? Then these polygroups, I'm going to repolygroup those to be different. And I'm going to, whoops, I'm going to now by polygroup, push this in. Okay, come back to here. You see what that is, right? And then now all I need to do is, where are we with this? Turn it into subtractive, and then there you go. So there's my subtracted vent portion of this back part, right? Now I want to put a little bit of some, you know, pattern, a little vent pattern in here, okay? So now I'm going to say, let's take this. I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to go ahead and take a cube. Let's go ahead and size this up, maybe about that big. Right about there. And I'm also going to put it on a little bit of an angle, and then stretch it, put it right about there. Okay, and I'm going to drop it down to here. Right about there. And then now I'm going to tell ZBrush, I would like to duplicate this to be about that many repeating. Right, so there's that. I got those repeating now, just like that. Pretty simple. That was just holding the control key, clicking on the arrow, right? So I'll do it again up closer, and we'll just look at only this so you guys can really get an understanding of what I'm doing here, okay? So all I'm doing is turning on the gizmo and then going, I want to duplicate, right? So wherever my finger's still on control key and my pen is still on the arrow, I'm going to stop and say I want that distance, and now I just keep moving my hand that distance. And just keep moving my hand, but I let go of the control key, right? And then that's how I've been doing that repeating pattern. So again, holding control, clicking on the arrow, my finger is still on control. I establish where I want the repeat. I now let go of control, and now when I just keep moving the arrow, ZBrush is just going to keep repeating it. And then I can clear my mask. Right? And then I can just duplicate the whole thing again. And I need them to sit right about there. Right? And then I'm going to move this. I'm going to move this down to here. And then now I'm going to just rotate these. Get them to be where I want them to sit. Right about there. Right? And then I can even move these in space a little bit there. Right? And then now I don't need all of them. So I don't need any of those. I don't need any in here. And I don't need any in here. Right? And then now just delete hidden. And then there you go. Just like that. Done. Right? So there's that vent. Okay? If you want to unestablish, see the round corners on the outside here. So this part, see, it's got a little bit of roundness. The easiest way to do that is just add an edge loop. Right there. And add one down here. Right? And it'll kind of sharpen up those. And then you can add one this way and add one this way. So if you want a little bit more of something that looks like that, you can do that. Now, let's look now at the other one, okay, that we have, which is this one, right? So this one's got really big vents. So you can do the same thing if you wanted to. But I can show you another way to do this, right? So there's more than just one way to make this happen. Thank you for your kind words, Nazumi. Hopefully I did not get that incorrect. Okay, so I'm just going to reuse what I already have here, which is this thing. I'm just going to reuse this. Okay, so let's just copy this over and let's put another one right here. Okay, but this one's not going to be as wide. We're going to go a lot skinnier. Something more in that world. Okay, because there's got to be a ladder that goes here. Right? And then maybe, just to keep this also looking a little bit different, let's change up this design a little bit. Let's QMesh, polyloop. Let's bring this up. Bring that up like that. And then maybe do an angle like that. Just so there is a little bit of subtle differences here. Okay, and then let's go ahead and crease these corners once again. Make sure all my corners are creased where I want them. something like that. Okay. So at least there's a little bit of subtle differences between those two vented portions. Okay. And now let's go ahead and insert. Let's insert a cube. And I'll just call this, for the sake of large back vents. Okay, and then I'm going to, once again, let's bring this forward and replace it with this cube. Okay, I'm going to turn on dynamic, but this time in dynamic, I'm going to turn on Q grid, and I'm not going to have any smoothing. Right, and I want to have maybe more like that, and play with the coverage a little bit, something more along those lines, and it needs to be about, let's use that. Okay, here's the top portion. Let's go ahead and push that all the way in, and let's hold the Alt key, tap on that face so this gets aligned this way, and let's rotate it. Let's do 15 degrees. Let's start at 15 degrees. Let's see how that looks. So it needs to sit a little bit more like that in the world. Okay, and like this. Okay, now I've got a problem in the sense that I can't see the vent anymore, right? So we need to take care of that. So let's go back up to this one, right? And we need to come through here and make these faces here, right? In essence, we need to push through. So it creates something more like this, right? Because I want this to be seen, and then let's make sure we crease it, or I can just go, I want to make things faster for my crease by an angle, right? So at least now I have that. So now I can start to see the vents. And then I'm going to now also pick this and say, I need an edge loop. Now I might need an edge loop here, an edge loop here, edge loop here. Okay, and then an edge loop up here, right? And then now take these two and Q mesh those in. And now establish some creasing points of interest here. There we go. So that way, we're going to really be able to see how these vents are working, give it some depth, right? And then now let's go back to that vent, and I think I'm going to rotate it more. I'm going to give it a little bit more rotation. I'm going to go more, I think, in that there. And push it out. Not even more, I think. And I think I'm going to go a little bit bigger. So let me re-establish this angle so I can go bigger like that. Something more like that. And then it needs to fit within the space. There we go. Okay, so now there's the first vent. Okay. Oh, Keith, welcome. Game over, man. Okay, so that's great. Only a year been using ZBrush, Keith? Wow. Well, welcome to the family. Welcome to the community. We're all excited to have you here and be a part of all of our discovery. So I'm going to use some handy dandy array mesh once again. Okay. So this one I want a couple repeating. Let's see, maybe let's go 3. Down to here. Like right about there. Right? So there's 3 repeating there at the top now. With that gap. I'm going to append a new, but this time I'm going to turn on chain. And you can see what that did. That just added to the existing 3 that I have. Right? But then that's stage 2. So, like I said, I wanted to show you guys more than one way. And then now I can establish these. Let's repeat how many am I going to need. And let's look and see. I think I might have guessed the number just right. Maybe 11. Yeah, 11's looking better. Right? And then there's my vents, the repeat. And then when I'm happy with this too, this is a point where I'm like, okay, I'm pretty happy with all this. Okay. So I can make each mesh like this, but I'm just going to say, you know what? I'm just going to convert all of it. So I'm going to go into my geometry and I say convert BPR to geo, and then they all turn into real topology. Right? And then if I want to adjust just these ones, because now looking at this, I would say I would probably want this to be adjusted. These need to sit more in a little bit. I didn't do that port. Right? But then there, boom, done. Right? But then that's using array mesh to go one angle and then array mesh another angle by using that chain option. So that comes in really, really handy for sure. Okay, and then the ladder was the same way I made these rails in here. Okay, and then there's going to be points now when I come into the front here. One other thing I want to show, once we start getting everything established, and there's little windows on the front of here. I believe that's, sorry for the diehard Aliens fans. I think these are windows right here, if I remember right. It's been a while since I watched the movie, right? So the thing is, we're building stuff, and right now I'm also using live booleans to do stuff. So this is why I also started making folders, okay? This is one of the main reasons why I started making a folder. Because then what I can do is, I want to start making the windows, right? So we're using a whole bunch of different things here to make this. So what I'm going to do is actually, through the boolean, through the folder, I'm going to boolean this so that I get a resulting mesh like this. Okay, and now I want to establish these windows. So the only part I really care about is this. This is the only thing I care about right now. I don't care about any other ones, okay? So I'm going to say, let's go ahead and delete this, right? And then now I'm going to say, okay, the windows, and I really only care about this portion, right? So that is the only thing left over. But this is going to be the main part of my body, right? So I'm going to say, all right, the window needs to come straight across from here. So straight across like that, okay? And then let's go ahead and delete hidden. Then the window clearly comes down this direction and this direction. Well, I've got some topology here already doing that. So let me just get rid of the topology I don't need, right? Something like that. And in fact, let's even delete hidden. Let's get rid of that and that and that, okay? And then I'm going to delete hidden, right? So now I have this. So now this is when I might turn on, okay, everything again in the folder. So I can see this relationship. Okay, so I like that. That's looking good. That's looking good. Okay, there needs to be a little bit of gap in here. So let's get rid of that gap. Something like that. And let's get rid of one row topology this way, and maybe one row this way, and one more row this way. Okay, so now I have this. Right, so now I have these pieces. Okay, ready to go. Now, if you want to, you could, like this piece is already fine, but this piece has got a bunch of little triangles in it, right? So there's like that. It's pretty ugly what's happening right in there. Okay, so I might just say, look at just this piece, right? And then I'm going to come here to my Z remesher, and I'm going to say, I think 1,000 is probably even too many. Okay, that's way too many, right? I don't need that much. Okay, so this is probably going to be pretty low topology, right? So you can just remesh the whole thing if you want to, right? And get something like this. You just need to establish some low polygon. So let's try 500. There, that's good enough, right? So now that I have this, we'll make that all the same polygroup. Okay, and then now I'm gonna QMesh, polygroup all, pull it out a little bit. Okay, and then now I'm gonna polygon do this. I'm changing the polygroups on purpose. Something like that. Then I'm gonna say inset, and then I'm gonna do polygroup all, and then do a little bit of an inset. Maybe something like this. And this portion now, QMesh, polygroup all is what I want. But I want QMesh, polygroup all. Hold the shift key so I get a little bit of something like that. Okay. Then I'm going to take these and I'm going to say, let's polygroup. Let's repolygroup this loop to be the same as this loop. And then let's go ahead back to QMesh, polygroup all, hold the shift key, or do a little bit something like that. And then I'm going to delete this, so then you have something like that. And then delete this, so you have something like that. Let's go ahead and crease. You guys know how much I like my creasing, right? Something like this, right? And then this is now going to establish, right, the cutting in to there, right? Creating that cavity for the windows, okay? And then, so I can just call this cavity windows. And then I'm going to duplicate this. And part of the reason why I did this initial inset is this is now going to become my windows. So I'm going to do a delete hidden. And then we're going to push them out. And see my normals are flipped. So I'm going to come down here to my display properties and flip them back. Right? And then now there are my windows that are smaller than that cavity. And I'm going to add, let's add a little bit maybe. Let's wonder what it looks like. Let's throw a little maybe Q grid on this. Yeah, I kind of like the Q grid on there. Play with that coverage a little bit. And then there you go. Right? And then that's how I created that section. So it's about reusing part of the design. Okay. And there you go. Cosmic Legends, it's not going to be possible. Just use the slice brush. That's what the slice brush can do. You don't need to use the knife brush to do a single-sided mesh. Just use slice to do that. Materials don't go Z over. Unless Maxon added that somehow to there goes Z in Cinema 4D. But the Maya one, there's no materials will go over. All right, just catching up on a couple questions that came through. Keith started in Oculus and you're in ZBrush. Like I said, welcome to the family. Okay, Parzel, I answered your question. There's no material sending over with GoZ. What you might want to do is do selection sets, is what I would do. Because selection sets will, polygroups will go over as selection sets. So what I would recommend for you to do is assign the same polygroup to all the pieces that you want to have the same material in Maya. And then when they go over, those will be a selection set. That's what I would do. Which also FBX will do that too. You don't have to just go Z. Just catching up. Nizumi, nice try. Couldn't say. How do you assign a polygroup to the same thing? Like, for example, these are two separate pieces, right? So if I just control W, it'll make a new polygroup. Right? And then you can copy this polygroup actually with ZModeler. So you hold the Alt key, click on it, let go of the Alt and switch the Shift without taking your pen off. And then now that polygroup is established. So even if I switch to this, right? See, I get the same polygroup. Okay. That's what I would do. But like I said, not just GoZ, FBX will also do it as well. All right, so this is kind of where I start. This is where my workflow is, right, for you all. So, and then I'm just continuing this process to get to our final result, which is, this is my final APC, armored personnel. Oh, one thing that I want to stress is, see this little pattern that I did in here? That's just a plane, by the way. Right, so that's just a plane giving me this little pattern. Okay. So all I did for that is took a plane like this. I'll show you another thing that I think could be fun. Right, take a plane, make that a poly mesh. Okay, I for insert mesh brushes. I'm going to grab this IMM primitives brush. Then I'm going to say B, and then turn that into a nano, which you guys can't see. So I'm going to go through the brush palette instead. So right here, there's create nano mesh. Right? And then I just created this and I turned this into a ZModeler brush, right? So I just now created a new ZModeler brush. And I know that because at the bottom here, see, there's a new ZModeler. And see, this is the number 14. That's the new one that I just created with from the insert mesh brush that was 14. Nano, nano, nano. Okay. And then I'll answer your question in a second about the normals flips. And now all I do is do this. All polygons, right? Draw out. They all get it, right? If I want to do a cube, then I can replace the cube, right? And then now this is what I have as my pattern. And then not only that, but we can go ahead and say, that's geometry. Let's go to nanos. Okay, and I'm going to say, let's go a little bit bigger. And I can even tile them multiple directions. So I can do like a 3x3. And see, now there's even more. And instead of me drawing out more, I'm just using this to give me that pattern, right? And there's a 2x2. And then it doesn't end there, right? Once I have this, I can even say, let's edit the mesh. Okay, and then I can grab stuff like this. Then QMesh, let's inset this like this. And then let's QMesh, polygroup all. Right, something like this, edit mesh. And then see, they all get that update. Or I can say, you know what, I don't even like this anymore. I want something else. Right, so I can say, oh, how about these cylinder pipes? right? You guys can go here to your inventory and say replace with nano. Boom. Right? So I just replaced these with whatever I select in here. I can say give me the capsules instead. Replace with nano. Now I have the capsules. Okay? So this is how I start establishing that pattern that I wanted on the side of mine. And then you can only just show that if you want to. So I don't even have to show the plane anymore. Right? So that's how I did this portion right here. Because there's like a little subtle pattern in the original there. So that's what I did. Okay. Unfortunately, I got to get going. I don't know when I'll be streaming next again, because obviously we have the ZBrush Summit coming up next month. So at the end of the month, don't miss out on that, everybody. It's a free event. It's all online. It's going to be Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. All right. And then we also, for Saturday, have the live ZBrush Sculpt Off, which is available to all of you. Guys, we got another set of like over $20,000 worth of stuff we're giving away, right? We've got stuff from Wacom. We've got 3D printer from Form Labs. We got a whole bunch of stuff. Okay, so I don't know what my schedule is going to look like, because we're all going to be prepping for that summit, because it's like a month away now. Okay. So make sure you sign up and come by that. Again, our whole schedule here, I'll give you a link. Let me get this out of the way so I can actually type better. Oh, nice. Right on my phone. Hold on. Let me get into my browser here real quick. I don't want it as my default. So ZBrush Summit. Actually, Summit. Let me go to this monitor. It's easier for me to look at. Okay, summit.pixologic.com. Here's where you guys can sign up to become contestants in the Sculpt Off. All right, so this is where you register. You need to be able to stream. So you got to stream either on YouTube or Twitch. So I say if you want to do this, I would recommend getting going now. Practice streaming, establish your channel so that you know how to stream. We give you information right here how to set up streaming. So that's what this link is right here. And then right here are all the contest rules as well. If you have any questions, you can email us at zbrushsummit@pixologic.com though. Okay. It's a lot of fun. It's a great challenge for you as an artist just to see what you can get done. We're going to be sharing the theme very shortly with everybody. So everyone's going to find the theme out way before. So you can do a lot of practice and prepping. Okay. But make sure if you want to compete, check the rules. And then if you've never streamed, we've established here a little 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps of how you set up streaming. So this will help you guys establish how to start streaming. And I would practice now. Okay, I had a couple people last year that just tried to set everything up right before the competition, and then it's not going to work very well for you. Okay, as far as beginner stuff, okay, there is multiple ways to get and learn about ZBrush. So we have things like our feature pages here, but if you wanted to, let me go to the Pixologic homepage. Right, so learn ZBrush. There is our online documentation, because you can search with that, but there's free Z Classroom training here, which there's a bunch of videos all through here. It's very beginning. So like the getting started, this would be the best. So and you can see each one of these have sessions. So this one has 14 videos in it. This has 12 videos in it, right? And all these videos, a lot of them are very short and to the point, 3 to 5 minutes. Okay, so I would, hey Ben Vinchar, here, I'll throw this in the chat for you. These is a good place for you to start since you're asking good beginner videos. Right? We give away stuff through the entire summit. The summit again is going to be October 23rd through the 26th. The Sculpt Off is happening on the 23rd, and then we'll have special events, streaming events, presentations happening from the 24th through the 26th. So right here, it's 100% free, and it's all online. So you can watch whenever you want. Okay, and we haven't announced yet who our guests are going to be. So if you want to learn more information as we go about this, at the bottom here, you can sign up for a newsletter. And every time we make a major announcement for the summit, we send out a newsletter to these people. Okay. Is there some date after which you can't sign up? Yes. Yes, there is a cutoff date because I need time to prep some stuff to make this be a cool stream. So yes, there is a cutoff date. It's in the rules. I want to say it's the 20th, if I remember correctly. But there is a cutoff date, yes. And then here's all the people that have already signed up. That you can start even going and looking at their channels, right? And then this is also a place where you guys, when the stream's going to be happening on that 23rd, you can come here and just click on people maybe and start perusing around and see what people have. Okay, so I would say go look at your rules. Yes, there is a cutoff date because I need time to go through things. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure. I know it's in here somewhere, but I'd have to find it. I don't remember the exact date. And when you sign up, it's going to be in the email as well. Okay, so I encourage you all, man. You'll learn a lot. Wait, what was the last question somebody was asking me? I said, I'll come back to that. There was something actually. I forgot there was something. I said, I'll come back to that. Forget what it was now. Oh, how do you know that normals are flipped? That's what it was. I think this is an important one. Okay, so here, we'll just solo this out. Okay, how you know normals are flipped is in display properties. Okay, as long as you don't have this double on and the normals it looks normal, then they're not flipped. Right? This is flipped normals. See? These normals now are all flipped. Right? If you have double on, you'll never know. Right? See? Because we're showing you both normals not facing the camera and normals facing the camera. Okay? And then this flip allows you to flip. Right? And then you can also do this visible wise. So I can flip these, right? And then see these ones didn't get flipped. I'll flip you for it. I'll flip you for it. I know what you're doing. I like it. Okay, so you have the ability to visually look at just certain meshes and flip them. And as long as you don't have double on, then you'll see the flip. If you keep double on, then you won't see that there's flipped normals. Cosmic Legend, you never know. You never know. I will have some special guest appearances from people for sure this year. So come join us for sure. Okay, so there you go. There's at least how I started making all this. The rest of this is just putting the time in, and it's all just mostly just ZModeler making the pieces. It's not anything crazy. It's just putting the time in. And I would say this thing maybe took me the whole thing from beginning to end. I would say probably not more than 30 hours. I would say if I had to guesstimate, I would say maybe 20 to 25 hours the whole thing took me. All right. All right, so thank you everybody. Keep an eye on our calendar to see our streamings coming up on our channel. We have streaming live every single day practically on this channel, which is our ZBrushLive.com. I really appreciate you guys all taking time to come and with me to show you how I started to put this little piece together. Hopefully you guys learned a little bit got some good tricks and techniques, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all in upcoming streams, and especially at the ZBrush Summit. All right, so again, I'm Paul Gaboury with Pixologic, and I am